Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to 18.2 Launch Week and today's webinar, What's New in version 18.2 for WPF, presented by DevExpress CTO Julian Bucknall and DevExpress Technical Evangelist Paul Usher. We have officially released 18.2 and all you have to do is click the My Downloads link and you will see the latest version. In this session, Paul and Julian will explore our newest WPF components and features set to ship as part of 18.2. This session is being recorded and it will be made available on our DevExpress YouTube channel later today. And we will send the link to the recording in a follow-up email sometime next week. We will also do a live Q&A at the end of this presentation. Just type your questions in the GoToWebinar control panel at any time throughout the broadcast. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand things over to Paul and Julian.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to WPF Day. Good morning, Julian.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning, everyone. Yes, what's new in 18.2 WPF? You may have noticed that we've done things slightly differently this time around. In the past few major releases, we've had a webinar on WinForms and WPF. And I think to say, Paul, we were running out of time is an understatement.
Yeah, we've been able to fill both of these up with some really amazing demos on the necessary technologies. So it's exciting.
Indeed. So today it's WPF and UWP. So if you're a Windows 10 UWP fan, stick around and we'll show you. So what are we going to do today is essentially have a quick look at these new controls and features. We have the Gantt control. Keep calm, people. Keep calm. But we'll go through all of these, charting data grid, the pivot grid, docking, and so on and so forth, as we reveal all, as it were. So first of all, I think it's going to be Paul. So let me quickly give Paul control, and we'll see what he has to show.
Absolutely. We have been having a few minor issues with GoToWebinar this week, so let me know if there's any strange artifacts appear, please, Julian.
Okay, will do.
I'm running all the demonstrations today from the WPF demo application, which you can find by typing in demos in your start bar, launching the demo center, and then launching WPF. The first cab off the rank is a brand new control, which is in CTP, so Client Technology Preview, and it is a Gantt control. When the team first said that they were going to be doing a Gantt control, I got really excited. I've done a lot of work with Gantt charts and planning visualization over the years. Previously, we've had a Gantt style report in our charting or reporting, but now we're talking about a Fed income, good old Aussie term, interactive Gantt chart. It is CTP, so I'll go through some of the things that aren't yet available, where we're heading with it, but we want feedback. One of the things that the team decided to do was use the tree list control as the inherited element for doing this left-hand side of a Gantt chart. Now, if you're not familiar with a Gantt chart, it's a collection of tasks, in this case a multi-level list, with a start date, a finish date, and or a duration. Sometimes you can have a progress, baseline information, but it produces this beautiful waterfall effect and shows you things over time. Some of the nice functionality in here, if I press control and use my scroll bar on my mouse, which I'm using a trackpad, so it's actually between GoToWebinar and everything else is quite difficult. When you zoom, you can actually change that timeline scale to zoom in and out, which is really quite a smooth experience. Inside this left-hand area, you can use this as an editing functionality. You can lock it down so that your users can't edit. Let me go through some specific items about it. Data binding, you can use our Gantt model, or you can actually map your own fields. The typical things that you'd find in there would be start date, finish date, duration, the baseline, the progress complete, the task name, the resource type. So if we take a look here on screen, I can actually say I want to show baseline, and you can see that the actual, or the dates that these tasks should have been occurring are now rendered in gray. You can turn on group highlighting, so you'll see that each element or each set of groups is rendered with that highlight. I can actually turn on and off the non-working or holiday times. So right now, as I toggle that, you should see some bars drawing up and down, weekends, etc. You can toggle information such as whether you want to show the resource name, which you don't have to apply resourcing with Gantt tasks. You can show the resource name, or you can show the task name actually on the control itself. And the things that we've implemented at this stage, on the left-hand side, you can use the tree list for doing the actual editing, and we're just doing the presentation layer on the right-hand side. As we move forward in the future, we're going to be allowing you to actually interact with this Gantt area a little more. And so you'll be able to drag the durations or move things around, dependency types. Now for task types, we've added support for tasks, so just the main core line that you need inside a Gantt chart. We've added the summary task, so this collapsible parent, so to speak. If I can collapse out to a top level or just keep drilling down between each one. We've added a milestone. Let me whiz through my chart and see if I can quickly find a milestone for you. Here we go. Let's take baseline off. We can see this little diamond represents a milestone. Milestones are usually just a specific one day duration. And we have added task summary and milestones. As far as predecessors or dependencies, we've got support for finish to start, which is a typical scenario where one task finished and you can start the next task. We've got start to start, we've got finish to finish, and we've got start to finish. And all that is specified as a dependency type. I've mentioned we've got baseline support, we've got the dynamic zoom levels, which is control and mouse wheel. Straight out of the box with the CTP, you've got the ability to work with working times and holidays. You can control the entire appearance, so you can set different, say, percentage complete values, changing the colors. There's some really good examples that we're shipping with here. So that's the start plan. We've got support or an example of how to do the data binding, data mapping between a Microsoft Project XML file and the Gantt object. So if I just switch to code here and show you, the team have put together a nice example of how you can go through the XML file and do the data binding at that point. Another really snazzy example of use of the Gantt chart is this real-time data update. Now, if you think in terms of your browser when you press F12 and you might want to look at how long elements are taking to load, there's an example of how to implement something like that as we see here, which I thought was pretty interesting. Hopefully that's coming through nice and rendering well for you, Julian.
Yes, it is. You can see the new items appearing.
If we jump down into code examples, you'll get to see some great examples of the data binding, some of the built-in types, how to customize the timescales, so on and so forth. It is CTP. We do want feedback. I know that the team will be very excited to hear what people are doing. And I guarantee right now, somebody's sitting in that question window saying, is it available for WinForms? Or is it available for XAF? At the moment, the focus has been WPF. And again, the team wants to hear from you if you are interested in those, for example, the WinForms platform. However, don't forget, as a WinForms developer, you can embed a custom control or a user control that is WPF. So you get the best of both worlds.
Indeed. What Essentially what we're saying here is we're using the WPF version of this control to investigate what's involved in having a Gantt control. Remember, this is not just the chart. This is also the tree list on the side there, the ability to get data from some database, what types of data there is or what structure that data has. So we're investigating all these, problematic areas, if you like, in one platform only. Once we've, worked out the issues with creating a Gantt control, then fine, we'll certainly consider porting it over to other runtimes and other platforms like WinForms or even on the web with ASP.NET or something like that. So this is, if you like, our test bed. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm the CTO. I can make big statements.
So as far as what's next, as I mentioned before, the presentation part's complete. The team are going to focus on editing in the next cycle. So at the moment, you've got editing in the tree area. We're not currently doing the calculations, so it's up to you to do the calculation for your finish time based on your duration, non-working times, etc. But it is something that will be coming as we move forward, as will lead and lag times and other features that you'd expect inside a Gantt control. But as I was talking to you a little earlier, Julian, I'm actually going to plan on doing a dedicated webinar just on this particular control.
Absolutely, I'll join you for it.
Oh, now moving along, because there's obviously more than just love for Gantt. Although, let's take a look at what's new in the data grid and tree list. So, jumping into the data grid example, you're going to hear the term CTP a couple of times throughout today, and this next feature is the data filter editor, which is again CTP. I'm just going to limit my search list and come down to filter editor. So what does the filter editor control offer? I'm going to close off the existing filter element there. And as I drop down this list, you'll see that I've got the ability to search and select a particular field, and even down to the fact that this has mapped the image that is showing as a column header on my grid. So I'm going to select product. When I come over to enter a value, I'm presented with this drop-down list. A couple of beautiful features inside here. One is the fact that I can change the sort for that list, so it makes it easier for me to get into looking at what I might want to filter by. And the other is the record count next to each of these elements. And I really do think it's a great feature to be able to go and say, well, aniseed syrup, there's 12 records, 41 records. It's just those little bits of information that will make using some of these controls a lot nicer. So we're displaying a list of fields within the search box. You can select the value, and you can also define and use name filters in the filter editor. Now currently the filter editor is available in the grid and tree list. And in the future, we will be looking at a standalone version as well as implementing it into some more of our controls. Another enhancement is the custom cell editor. We've added support for validation on non-DevExpress editors that are used in the cell templates. We've also added keyboard navigation support for the API. Another CTP feature is the filtering UI. Now, what do I mean by a filtering UI or filtering UI block? Here we've got a filter option on the left, and the first element here is the price, which is a range control. We've got the spin edit control showing minimum, maximum. And of course, I can drag through and just go select, select. That's implemented with this new feature. I'm going to come into the source and I'm going to say, show me a DXF UI element until I find the one I want. Now we're inside this accordion control, and we've got the accordion item called price. You'll see this piece of code here, which is the filter UI element, and effectively specify the type of filter I want and the field name, and it will do the rest. It automatically retrieves any available values. It looks after all the formatting options and any other information relevant to the supported or the connected field. Now, it works with checkbox, radio list, checklist, check tree list, name filter list, range control as we saw, and also the calendar. So that in itself is good. In order to help the usability for the end user, the data grid and tree list now support highlight of rows and cells when the user hovers over them with a cursor. You can activate the feature by using the highlight item on hover. Try saying that one over and over. And you can also change the default appearance settings such as background colors, foreground colors, and custom elements within the hovered cell or row. We've added some functionality into the Excel-inspired filter drop-down. So if I type Excel correctly, oops, it doesn't have a W in Excel, Julian.
Well, okay. I'm still on Lotus 1, 2, 3, so there you go.
Oh man, that's you're showing your age now, my friend. I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm sure there's one before that, but we won't go there. So you can now see the record counts inside the distinct values as well as the use of name filters. I'm going to switch to the web view example. You can now use a checkbox in the top column to select all of the elements inside there. All these little things that make the use of the control or the end user look and feel really pop. There's a number of other miscellaneous enhancements around performance and other minor features. Next, I'm going to bring up the diagram control. I'll utilize the main demo for this, and there's a couple of things, 3 specifically, for the diagram control. The first one is the introduction of a pan and zoom window. So I'll go to View, I'm going to go to Panes and turn on Pan and Zoom. What this is going to allow me to do is automatically zoom in and out, so the same as using the zoom option down here, but I can now navigate around my document with relative ease. So if I'm zooming in for a document that's got a lot of information, I can quickly just move around to the approximate place I want using that window. So that's, again, quite a unique feature and makes it a lot easier to navigate. The second thing I want to show is not custom shapes, but actually connectors. When we render an actual connector for a right angle, we use an algorithm to try and calculate the best fit. A lot of our customers have come back and said it's caused some confusion with the way that the diagram is rendered. And I'll show you an example of that. Scroll down to my right-hand connector. So typically, or prior to version 18.2, this is how we would render a right-hand connector. Now, if you've got these 3 elements all moving off the parent, you can see that it can sometimes cause confusion, especially where a lot of connectors are involved. So what the team have done is they've implemented a new correct connector separation mode as a property, which allows you then to set a minimum distance and render the same information with a lot more clarity. And of course, you get to choose which method suits your needs best. Another feature for the diagram viewer is a view-only mode, where you can disable pretty much all the operations and turn it into a read-only style of document viewer. You can also choose or define which operations you're allowed to hide and or use. And then finally, the item selection mode, where you can have the user not able to select any item, only select a single item at a time, or utilizing the mouse and the marquee, select multiple items at once. Moving along to docking. Let's just get the demo up. So docking windows, and I'll use the main demo. If you've got dock or panels that have got a lot of visual elements inside it, when you try and drag and move that around, that could cause some lag or become sluggish for the user. So now you've got an option of actually saying, I don't want to redraw the content when I don't want to show the content when dragging. So now if I grab that same panel, it's a much smoother, you've got the nice translucent option coming through, and because we're not re-rendering the information on every, or it's not repainting on every move, that whole experience is a lot cleaner. We've also added a new view style. So the default style would be that you've got these few pixel boundaries between all the elements. I can now hit the light option, and we're going to see that down to a light mode, which merges basically the borders between all of the dock panels. Again, there's a number of miscellaneous enhancements inside the dock panels, which you can dig into if you look at the what's new details on the website, which is always worth doing when we release an update. We'll jump in and take a look at some of the editor controls now. The date navigator and date edit is the ones that I'm going to target. I'm using the search feature up here to make sure I can get to it quickly because my screen resolution is a little smaller than I would like. So the date navigator control. We've added this new calendar style. So the classic look was like that. I'm going to switch it down to the Outlook style, which gives it a compact header and makes it look and more feel Microsoft-esque as far as the Outlook calendar. Another new feature is the ability to set min and max dates. So as a quick example, 13th of November through the 30th of November, you can see that all the other elements are rendered or disabled, meaning that I can't select that, which is good for, I can think of lots of reasons, scheduling where you obviously can't go back and pick a date, or where there's only certain times or dates available. There's also the ability to specify disabled and highlighted dates via the API. You've got the ability to obtain the visible date range, and I've already mentioned the compact header. Now this is implemented into the date navigator and also the date editors drop down. And next, I want to look at the humble checkbox. Check edit. You can now display glyphs instead of the default checkbox. So typical checkbox, tick yes, tick no. Now you've got a set or preset number of glyphs. So this is an example of a 2-state glyph, thumbs up, thumbs down, a 3-state or tri-state glyph using SVG items there. And of course you've got the customized or fully customized samples anyway. So added glyph support into our check control. There's been updates to the MVVM framework where we've simplified the syntax for the getters and setters inside bindable base and view model base classes, as well as support for the Prism 7 Prism adapters. PDF viewer has been updated to use the DirectX rendering. Now, certainly in the WinForm controls, there's been a lot of work with DirectX, and the benefits of DirectX is performance, high performance, utilization of non-integers for coordinates for glyph positioning, which means you get amazing improvements inside anti-aliasing for text, especially things like Type 1 fonts. You've got huge performance gains across a number of different usage scenarios. You've got added support for all the different blend modes, and you've got support for text rendering. For example, if you're using clip regions for drawing and other things. So that's a nice one to see updated. Julian's going to touch on the pivot grid. I will jump in and talk about ribbons and then theming. So the Office 2016 SE and VS 2017 themes now use a lightweight template to render the bar items, which improves load times and merge operations for any application that is using ribbons or toolbars. So that's the SE and VS themes. There's also performance improvements inside the merging for MDI applications, where again, you're just going to get that much smoother and more performant output if you're using the multiple document interfaces. Themes themselves, you can now locate and modify control templates, create custom themes, and apply color presets. There is the palette theme keys. Man, some of these phrases are really tongue twisters. And themed window enhancements, where the DX message box and or the dialog windows, theme window, theme message box can be used on a standalone basis or with the MVVM services, so that we've replaced the legacy DX message box with that themed one, meaning that any pop-ups that you're using or any dialogues that you're using will maintain that theme. And I think with that, Julian, we might switch over to you and talk about, I don't know, maybe some charts.
I tend to agree with you. So let's just grab the screen here and make sure I'm going to show you the right screen. There we go. Okay, same WPF Demo Center, and we're going to start off with some charting news. So what's new in charting? The first big enhancement is to do with the panes option for the charts. So let me find the panes where I've lost it again. I had it this morning. There it is, there. So new enhancement here is we give the ability to add a title for each of the panes in your chart. So here we have a chart with 3 panes, so 3 separate charts if you like, all sharing the same x-axis, and we now have a title for each of those panes. And not only that, if I click the title, I can hide the pane, and notice as I hide the pane, the other panes expand to fill the space that's no longer being used. So if I hide that, the visitors thing grows, and if I hide that, visitors grows even more. So an interesting way of using panes to show lots of information, and allow, if you like, your users to, I don't want to say drill down, but be able to visualize the other panes or the other charts a little better. The second big option that we've added for the charting is the grid pane layout. So here we have several panes, and this time they're in a grid form. They're no longer stacked one on top of each other. They're more grid-like. So we have in the first column there, we have 2 panes, and in the second column we have 3 panes. Again, with titles, but this time the titles, the option to close them, or hide them, I should say, has been disabled. So a couple of new nice enhancements for the panes option in your charts. Second one, I don't have a demo for at the moment. Basically, users can now zoom along a specific x-axis, or sorry, a specific axis, whether it's the x-axis or the y-axis. You can zoom in using the mouse wheel while the mouse is hovering over that particular axis. We can also allow you to configure hotkeys, and those hotkeys can be used to affect the behavior of the mouse buttons when zooming in or zooming out. Next one I want to show you for sure is the financial charting. The new, or the crosshair ability for the the hover panel here, to display more information than is visible in the charts. We can now display technical indicators. So you see there the Bollinger Bands, we're showing the average, the lower, the upper, which isn't actually available through the chart itself. Or rather it is, but we're showing these technical indicators along with the well, they're not quite candlesticks, the stock chart indicators there, open, high, low, close. Excuse me. We've also extended the indicators API, made it similar to the series API, so you can do basically whatever you want in there now. So that's the new features for charting. And next up, I want to have a quick look at our mapping. Let's continue with the visualization type things here, or the analytics dashboard type things. We've now enabled the ability for your end users to edit vector items. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but yes, your users can now edit vector items. So here we have a nice vector item. Let's make some changes to it using this map editor. Scary stuff. Yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be a little bit weird. They can draw new shapes, be they push pins, be they paths or polylines. There's dots, ellipses and rectangles and just basic lines. They can edit existing shapes, as I was showing you there. They can undo what's been going on. So let's undo some of these changes just by pressing Control-Z there. Or they could redo them using, Control-Y or so on and so forth, or these icons up here. So once they've modified your vector, they can save it. They can save it to a shapefile or SVG or KML, which presumably is some kind of vector format. I'm not quite sure. But there we go. The map editor is now available for your users. Next up is the rich text editor. So I'm going to switch from the kind of analytics visualization type things into the Office inspired controls. So let's have a quick look at the new features in the rich text editor. First one I can't show you because I'm just not knowledgeable enough. We've added right to left support in our rich text editor. So if you need to edit Arabic or Hebrew, you can do so. We can load, print, export to PDF documents with right to left text. As I say, I'm just not knowledgeable enough for that. I can do French, but not Arabic or Hebrew. Next up is support for shapes within your document. So here we have a document with some shapes. We basically, there's a limitation here in that we don't have the support to add shapes to a document, but we can now open a document with shapes, display it, print it, or even export it to PDF. We do actually have the ability for changing what the shape looks like. So let's go for a red outline and make it thicker. There we go. So the outline for the actual shapes themselves and the connectors is now a thick red. And just to show you, I can now go to the file print preview. Let's show that particular screen. Here we are. Here's the print preview of this particular document. And notice it's we have the support for my change shapes. And let's export this to we'll export it to PDF, and I'm going to show you it in Adobe Acrobat. There it is. And just to show you that we do export the changes that we made to that shape. So shape support is now available inside the rich text editor. Also, with this release, you can load, save, display, print, export to PDF your paragraphs which actually have borders. What I want to show here is another set of features with regard to paragraphs, and that are the new widow and orphan control. If you recollect, the point here is the first line of a paragraph can't appear on the previous page. So that's the widow option, and then there's the orphan option where the last line of a paragraph appears on the next page. You don't want that to happen generally. So that's your widow orphan control. We've also added the ability to keep a paragraph with the next paragraph, so they're always shown on the same page. Sometimes that's important depending on your document and all the rest of it. So keep with next is available, and widow orphan control is available. The keep lines together option now mirrors what Microsoft Word does, and you can do all this either within code or within the UI as we have here. So that's the rich text edit changes for WPF. On the spreadsheet side of things, I don't have a demo for this. We also do have support for rendering shape effects inside your spreadsheet. So shadow, reflection, glow, soft edges, and all that kind of wonderful stuff. There's an API that goes along with that. It allows you to create new shapes, connect them, and group them, and change the fill and outline, and putting text in there and all that kind of stuff for shapes. And we've added sparkline rendering for our spreadsheet control. Documents with sparklines can be printed and exported to PDF. And the fab one for me is you can now create and edit rich text within a cell within the spreadsheet. I'm going to jump over now to the calendar and scheduling side of things. And what's new here is, first of all, is a couple of brand new views for your scheduler. The first one is the agenda view. And what the agenda view is a more compact representation of your schedule through a day or through the next day, and so on and so forth. So this is compared with the previous one, which we're just looking at. Here we have your appointments just basically, listed in blocks. So you have a nice list of what's happening, in fact, here, today, tomorrow, basically a week. The information for each appointment is shown. So you can have a very short description of an appointment, I should say, or have lots of resources and information for that appointment displayed. That's the agenda view. The other one is the new list view, where it's way more compact. And we're basically displaying appointments exactly as they're stored in the database. We display them in a grid, and because it's a grid, you can do some fab things like changing sort orders by column or filtering by column. Let's have a quick look at what's happening in the training room, and so on and so forth. So you have that integrated search, filtering, sorting, grouping, because it's a grid. So that's the list view. You can also over here, import more appointments into that grid and see more information. But again, it's just a basic, standard, very, very compact, less detailed grid. That's the list view. The next thing is, let's quickly look at the Outlook inspired view of the scheduler. So what I'm going to do here is we have a day view here, and this is, if you like, your standard look and feel for a scheduler. You're seeing a bunch of resources here and a group of dates, and you can see the individual appointments. But there's not enough room to display a lot of information about those appointments. So what we've added now is the I keep on calling it a hover panel. I'm sure the guys are going to say, no. So we're showing these arrows and showing that it's not fitting in the visible range, but we can now display a lot more information in the hover panel to show that, yeah, it's extending beyond this particular day. It's extending, this one in particular is extending 5 days basically. A second shift of 5 days. Wow. and so on, so forth. So lots more information now available via the hover, and the ability to display start and end information. So that was the scheduler, and because I just showed you the scheduler for WPF, let me now bring over, apologies, the new scheduler control for UWP. It's in Community Technical Preview, so it's a kind of pre-beta. We have some basic functionality working here. So we have the day view, we have the work week view, the full week view, and the month view, which is what we had straight up. So what we have here is a full data binding support with mapping. So you can basically, you have your schedule already with WPF, and here we are. We can use the same data for UWP. So if you want to create a new application, UWP application, we have support for recurring appointments and all-day appointments. There's a built-in toolbar, as we've seen here, and we have an edit form for, obviously, for editing an appointment. That also includes time zone support. So here I am in Mountain Time, and the appointment. So I can show this as, in fact, this one is already set. I can set it as a repeat, and that is the new CTP for the scheduler. So if you're into writing UWP applications and you've been waiting for a scheduler, please try this one out. Let us know whether it suits you, what kind of functionality is missing that would help you out in your applications. Basically, we're looking for feedback at this stage. Yes, we do have a lot more functionality to add to the scheduler control, but we need, if you like, a little bit of guidance from our customers as to what is required, what they need, and so on. The data grid for UWP has the ability to use a virtual data source now. Essentially an asynchronous virtual data source. It's a data source which you don't know how many records are there. The total record count is unknown. You can create your UWP app that remains responsive to your end user actions regardless. It doesn't have to read the entire set of records to work out how many records are there. It's handy when you're working with a large data set, for example. It fetches and processes data on demand as a background thread. So it doesn't freeze up when you're scrolling through a grid. Dialogues, UWP, we've now matching the modern Windows 10 look and feel for dialogues, and we even allow you to invoke a confirmation dialogue when another dialogue is displayed. Kind of handy. There's an adaptive UI for your dialogues. They can scale according to the current application width. And we've added icon support for dialogue buttons. So that's our new stuff for UWP. And at that particular point, we are, I've basically covered what I needed to cover for WPF and UWP. So, Paul, how's it all going?
If my mute button would stay unmuted, then I could jump in and talk. So there's been a few questions in the background of, I did pick it that somebody, Jaco would love to see the Gantt control for WinForms. There's an interesting version or question that Jim mentioned regarding percentages of customers switching from WPF to UWP. But what I want to do is actually switch that around and throw that out there, and I suppose just remind everybody that our development timelines and roadmaps are based on what you guys are actually looking for. So people have asked in the past, well, what's your focus for UWP? we need to know what is actually going to be useful, what's going to be required out there. And certainly love to hear feedback such as, is it a technology that you're looking to switch to, and where things are going. And I think it is an interesting debate, and Jim does mention that he could write about the backwards and forwards on it for quite a while.
The other thing to realize is, with regard to these thick client technologies, is, Microsoft have announced .NET Core 3, and .NET Core 3 will have support for WinForms and WPF and UWP. It's going to be interesting over 2019, adding support for .NET Core 3, or making sure that our controls across all platforms for Windows actually do work with .NET Core 3. I'd advise everyone to keep monitoring what Microsoft is saying about .NET Core 3, as will we, and let's see what happens in 2019. It's going to be an interesting year. That's all I can say.
Absolutely, and it is a fair point that's raised that right now the number of jobs available, or people looking for UWP developers versus straight WPF developers, is vastly different. And there's all sorts of discussions we can get into, some political, some not. Back to some of the other questions. They've just about all been answered anyway, but let's review and say, okay, are we going to be introducing Gantt controls to the dashboards? Not at this stage. There's no plans to do that. Can I include customized images into the diagram control? Yes, the diagram control has support for both raster and SVG images. And of course, which would you choose, Julian?
SVG. You have to use SVG from now on. Do not use raster, please. Don't. Just don't.
Tony was
scales with your resolution, I mean, come on. Here am I.
We're talking to WPF people, my friend. They already know that. Now, can you change the panes to different positions on the charts? Can you drag panes in the charts? No, at the moment the support is to collapse and expand those panes, not reorder them or do anything else. And again, Tony puts in that it would be a great feature, to which we say, add a ticket to Support Center, please.
There is that, and there's also, I don't know whether you've noticed, but over the past year we've become very pushy about sending out things like surveys and newsletters, and at the end of every blog post we sometimes have a little mini survey there. Basically, we realize that in order for us to move our products forward, we have to have feedback from customers who are using those products. Those customers who are using the products know where the shortcomings are, or where the shortcomings are according to their particular scenarios. And so we really do need feedback, a lot more feedback from our customers. So if you do see a survey, please fill it out. Let us know what you want, what you need, what you don't like, and that will help us, decide what to do in version 19.1, 19.2, 20.1, and so on and so forth. After all, at this particular point in time, we've released 18.2, came out at the end of last week, and I did a blog post about it yesterday, and the emails went out yesterday as well. So we're in a particular position at the moment where we're deciding what to do for 19.1, so let us know.
The other thing as well, Julian, is to mention, because of the changes this year with GDPR laws, and resubscribe, make sure that your communication settings inside your account profile are set to allow us to contact you, because
a very good point.
Otherwise, hamstrung.
Yep, very good point.
Now, I think we've covered everything we wanted to do. I certainly would like to look at scheduling in a Gantt chart webinar. We could use a Gantt chart to do the planning.
Woo! Hey, too much. Okay, you write the app and I'll fill in the data.
No problem. Amanda, do you have anything that we need to add? Apart from register for Friday, I could say Saturday because it's Saturday for me.
I was going to say, that Gantt chart sounds like a good Friday night.
Register for Friday's webinar on dashboards and reporting.
Is that
that's
you and
us
Julian
again.
as well?
Oh, my word.
Working overtime. All right, thanks guys. Like I mentioned before, today's webinar will be made available later on our DevExpress YouTube channel, and you will also get that follow-up email with a link to this webinar and all of the launch webinars sometime next week. We do have 2 webinars coming up tomorrow, what's new in dashboards, reporting, and analytics, and a webinar on Code Rush Server. You can register at devexpress.com/webinars. And that is it for this one. Thank you so much to Julian and Paul. Thank you all for joining us. And of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye.